Welcome back. Our good buddy Robert Morrison is here. He is a Queen's professor, professor of literature, and his recent writing, of course, shows up in the conversation. A bit of an academic literacy website.
Yeah, it's an academic website that says sort of scholarly rigor but journalistic flair.
Yes, that so, you just described yourself.
So that
perfect.
There we go. That's what we're aiming for.
They asked you to write about Christmas, and you chose the subject of Leigh Hunt. Explain who Leigh Hunt was, first of all.
Leigh Hunt is a 19th century essayist and poet. I think of him as most important because he edited a newspaper from 1808, so a little more than 200 years ago, to 1821. And this newspaper was called The Examiner, and it came out every Sunday morning. And it was left-wing, quite far to the left. In other words, it didn't appreciate the monarchy. It didn't appreciate injustice in society. It didn't appreciate the way, for example, Catholics were treated. Catholics didn't have rights 200 years ago in England. And so Hunt wrote essays every Sunday morning attacking the government. And at one point got so far irritated the government so much that they threw him in prison for 2 years. And so he's a man of great courage and great conviction.
Yeah.
And he wrote a lot about the holidays, wrote a lot about what the holidays mean and what he thinks the holidays should be for. And so I took the opportunity. When I think about holidays, I think about, lots of people think about Charles Dickens and how he invented Christmas, but my mind went to Leigh Hunt and what he had to say in a number of different essays, and especially one that I chose from 1830.
Okay, the very first Christmas card.
Yes.
Ever mass-produced.
Yeah.
We're looking at it right now.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
This is part of your writing here for this website. Explain this Christmas card that he had commissioned, I guess.
Well, we didn't celebrate Christmas in the way that we do now 200 years ago. And there are a number of British writers that sort of, sometimes people say invented Christmas, Charles Dickens being the leading one. But the sort of the commercialization and the commodification of Christmas happened a little under 200 years ago. And Leigh Hunt was one of the people who, because he wrote often about the holidays, and because he knew Charles Dickens, and because he sort of shaped British culture regarding how holidays were celebrated, what people did, what people thought, what people sang. Christmas cards sort of grew out of that desire to turn Christmas into something more, for better or worse, than just a Christian holiday. And so Christmas cards, you know, Hunt was not as interested in the religious aspect as he was in community, in people connecting with one another, in it being a time where people were mindful of other people, but who also, people who celebrated being together.
That's what's interesting about that artwork was you see the celebration and the food and the family, but in the background you see loneliness, you see hunger.
Yeah.
We can seeing it right now. And you draw a direct correlation between, you know, the joyous celebration of family and getting together and the feeling of guilt and the idea that, you know what, don't feel guilty as long as fill in the blank.
Yeah, well,
as
long as you're mindful that other people aren't as fortunate as perhaps you are. Hunt grappled with this in a really sort of searching way. It is a student sent me an article a few days ago that said 41 million Americans live in poverty. 41 million Americans in the richest country the world has ever known. And if you think about what's happening in the world, it's very difficult not to feel overwhelmed and sad. And Hunt says, we're not going to solve anything, if we all feel sad. we don't relieve sadness by adding to its sum total. That's what he says. So we have a duty to celebrate. We owe it to ourselves, and we owe it to the rest of the world, to be mindful of those who don't have access to joy, to be as joyous as we possibly can be, and not forgetting about others. The blog ends with me quoting Hunt. And he says, you know, the great object is to lift the world without trampling on anybody. Well, lifting the world and trampling, that's not what Hunt says Christmas is about. Lifting the world without trampling on anybody, that's what Hunt is after. And that's what Hunt thinks the holidays are the time to do.
Really well said.
Thank you.
To paraphrase what his whole message in life's endeavor was.
Yeah. Hunt doesn't think that the Christmas is here so we can celebrate mindlessly and revel without remembering that 41 million Americans, for example, live in poverty, and lots of Canadians as well around the world. Hunt wants us to think about what it means, what community means, what friendship means, what connection means, what merriment means. And he wants us to be mindful of others and remembering that we're the good fortune we might enjoy ourselves.
Robert Morrison, we thank you so much. The conversation, look for his writings right there. I love this man so much.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you. Merry Christmas.
You too.